Good morning.
Today is June 30th, 2024, and our topic today is Dare to Dream Big. And this topic is based on the core of our teaching in what we call the science of mind. And it's based on the fact that we are one with, not connected to, but one with the power of the universe, the power and presence of the universe that is always creating. And it creates according to what we use with our consciousness, with our thinking. And so I know that when I came into this teaching, I really used this. I used it to create wonderful things in my life. I dared to dream big, and my dreams came true. And I've noticed that as I've gotten a little bit older, about 50 years older, I have a tendency to fall into, well, this is just the way it is. This is what happens as you get older. And I've been daring less to dream big. And so I want to share with you a reading that I got, and it's actually not from anybody you know. Let me put this on and get this share screen. So this was actually a wisdom teaching given to someone I admire, Suzanne Giesemann, who is a medium, and this is her wisdom keepers who give her inspiration. And this is what it says: dream on. Is this not what you tell someone when you feel they are wishing and hoping for something that you feel may not happen? What is a dream but a series of experiences that occur in an alternate state of awareness? At times, you are lucid while dreaming, and you know it is not your so-called normal state of consciousness. Look more closely at the nature of being, and you'll see that all that exists are experiences unfolding in various states of consciousness. So, do dream on in your current state, and dream big, for with consciousness, anything is possible. To limit your awareness to only the experience in the physical body can at times feel like a nightmare. You can dream bigger than that. So I want to repeat that again. When we limit ourselves to thinking that this physical existence that we are living is all there is limiting our awareness to only the experience in the physical body. And that can feel like a nightmare. We can dream bigger than that. So that is the source of the inspiration of our talk today. Let's see, do you know how we do that to remove their faces? Because we are recording. We're trying to, again.
Full screen.
Okay, there we go. There we go. Very good. So when I first started this teaching about 50 years ago, I didn't have any idea what the word consciousness meant. I heard it over and over and over and thought, what are they talking about? Consciousness. I had studied a little psychology. I knew what a conscience was. My conscience, what makes me feel guilty. I knew what the conscious mind and subconscious mind were, but what was this thing called consciousness? And that was the mystery. But what it means, what we mean by that is the creative power of God or the universe operating in our consciousness, in our minds. And there are many words for this. I'd like to share another reading so you can see all the many names that this has been given by various religions. Philosophers haggle about what to call this core of our humanity. Thomas Merton called it true self. Buddhists call it original nature or big self. Quakers call it the inner teacher or inner light. Hasidic Jews call it a spark of the divine. Humanists call it identity and integrity. In popular parlance, people often call it soul. What we name it matters little, but what we honor matters a great deal. And this is written by Parker Palmer in a book called A Hidden Wholeness. And his spiritual practice is being part of the Quaker organization. So we can see there are many, many names, but all of those names that we gave it, we could also say consciousness. It is the creative power of God that we use with our minds, and we're using it all the time.
Last night, we were watching Netflix, and I turned it off for a little while and then changed to a different channel and then went back to Netflix. And what I discovered, which is something I already knew, but I'd really not realized, is that Netflix was still on and the program was still playing, even though I had gone to a different channel. If you can imagine that every thought that you have, everything that you put into consciousness is like Netflix, it's being broadcasted. It's still continuing to be on. And I guess what I think happens to us is we have a thought, we don't think the thought means anything, and we think that since we've changed our mind and we're no longer thinking that thought is now gone. Imagine that your thoughts are a current that continues to have energy and it continues to live in the atmosphere and continues to live in the system that we all live in. If you think about it that way, you suddenly realize why it becomes important to monitor your thinking, and the kind of thoughts that you have then generate the conditions that you're living in, even when they're not visible to you. And so another way of looking at this that also occurred to me was looking at the ocean. If you ask the fish if they're swimming in water, they would say, "What is water?" Because it's all around them. But what you would also see if you were to watch a fish swim and you were able to look at it with a good enough camera or good enough lens, you would see that behind the fish there's a wake, even though it's all underwater. That is that the direction that fish is moving in is moving the water near it. And all of the other fish that are within the parameters of that, they also respond to that. They also know that that's true. And so I think what's really, really important for us to realize that our thoughts are things that continue to have lives long after we think we stop thinking them. And it's the general arrangement of all of those, the congruence of all of those, that begins to show itself as a manifestation in our world. And so when you think about doing something, and then you begin heading in that direction, and then you do more things that are related to that, that creates a kind of wave of energy that is palpable and it is real. And so it is a responsibility that we have to actually watch our thinking, to pay attention to our thinking.
Pay attention to our moods.
And we often don't do that because we think that out of sight, out of mind. And out of sight does not mean out of mind, it's still in mind. And so at the end of the day, when we talk about dreaming big, we're talking about allowing yourself to have as many thoughts as make sense to you as you can conjure in the direction of the dream that you would like to see realized, and knowing that that's creating a momentum, it's creating a kind of wake that will push you forward and push forward the possibilities that you'd like to see realized.
Exactly. And it's so exciting. It's really exciting to think that all things are possible through the power of God. It's not our power. It's a matter of fact, it was easy for me at first when I had so many demonstrations, which is something that we call when our affirmations and our spiritual mind treatment or affirmative prayers manifest. When they manifest, at first, it can be easy to get kind of cocky about how powerful you are. And it's not your power. It's not your power. As a matter of fact, if you continue on that vein, it won't work at all. So because it is the power of the universe, it's the creative power, that spark of the divine that is in us. And life happens in such a way to keep you humble in that regard. But also the human life that we live has a tendency to, we have enough disappointments to have us question whether it really works, whether we can really use this power.
You know, if you've ever written a book and you've got several pages or you've got a chapter of that book written, and I have had that happen to me in writing a book, finished a story, finished a chapter, and then started the next chapter. When I started the next chapter, the first one didn't go away. The first one didn't stop existing. The first one simply was not in my view. However, when I looked at all the chapters together, I could begin to see a bigger story than any one of the chapters. And so does the chapter that you're writing right now fit with the chapter that you've just written? And if not, what do you need to edit? What kind of editing do you need to do so that when you look at all of those chapters together, you like where they're going, you like what's unfolding? You know, we need to become mental editors if we're going to be able to have the mental experiences that we'd like to have. So when you talk about demonstrating different things that have, for yourself in life, what you've also done is you've demonstrated them and then you've reviewed the demonstration and you've added that chapter to the book that you're writing called This Is My Life. And that becomes a new opening for more possibilities.
Well, and it's demonstrating not only for oneself, but for
Clearly.
others. You know, our whole career has been doing this affirmative prayer for others as well, so that because you don't have to do it just for yourself, and it works for everyone. So you can use this power for others. Ernest Holmes said this in many of his talks: there is a power for good in the universe that is greater than you are, and you can use it. That was his whole teaching, basically.
That's the most powerful statement, I think, of anything I've ever read that he wrote, because without that, most everything else makes no sense.
Right.
And with that, it all fits together. That would be certainly the first page of the book that you'd want to read.
So another quote from him, that's from the Essential Ernest Holmes book, says, incarnated within each one of us, incarnated, so carne, like meat, embodied within each one of us, is not only a divine spark, not only an incarnation of the living spirit of the cosmos, but a unique presentation of the cosmic whole. So each one of us is a unique presentation of that cosmic whole. So as I say, it's called by many names, this thing that we're calling consciousness. Richard Rohr is a Catholic priest. So we find this teaching from so many places, because with mystics, they all get this same truth. Richard Rohr says, I believe that God gives us our soul, our deepest identity, our true self, our unique blueprint at our own immaculate conception. Our unique little bit of heaven is installed by the manufacturer within the product at the beginning. We are to discover it, choose it, and live our own destiny to the fullest.
I want to go back to a little bit earlier in the book Seth Speaks and the Seth Materials, which I really loved reading and loved. I loved everything I learned from it. Seth talks about a thought that you've had going out and fulfilling itself and having a life of its own. And that literally a thought that you have today continues to live, and not only it live, but it expands and it begins to have its own experiences, and it's all related to you. He's talking about us being multidimensional beings, and in a multidimensional universe that we live in, we can have many lives through the many thoughts that we have, and all of them come together in some kind of way that we can't see, that's not obvious to us, to manifest. Now, why that's also important is that you have a thought today, that thought goes out, if what Seth is saying is correct, and has its own experience. And then when the results of that come to you, you haven't seen where the thought went, you then think, wow, that was serendipity, or that was coincidental, or what an amazing thing. I wonder how that happened. Well, what's happened is that the sum total of all of your thoughts, as well as the individual expressions of those thoughts, go out literally and expand and explore. And so you're living in a world in which the dreams you're having are continuing to dream you and dream you into the world that you would like to see more of.
Because see, there are many levels in consciousness. And for example, as I was thinking about this, especially that sentence that I first read you about, sometimes, your consciousness in the physical life you're leading can feel like a nightmare. But when you change, other states of consciousness, dreaming is one of those states, and you're having an alternate reality with that. But so is meditation.
Mhm.
You can alter your consciousness by going into that vibration. It literally is a vibration. And when you meditate enough, which means daily, you can quickly get there because you know what that vibration feels like. And you just remember that vibration and it gets you there. That's an alternate state of consciousness. But so is almost everything that you do. When Bob creates art, he goes to another state of consciousness. It's one of beauty and harmony and wholeness and creativity, and it really makes him feel good.
Mhm.
That's why he likes to do it. So it's another state of consciousness. Creativity is another
But
state.
it also, in my experience, it takes me to places that I couldn't get to were I not to have practiced creating long enough that the practice itself is not something I have to pay attention to. It's like driving a car. When you get in the car, you don't pay attention to, I wonder if the gas is going from the gas tank to the motor. I wonder if everything, if you know how to drive the car, once you turn on the ignition, you allow the car to do all the things that it can do. Why that's important is that if we're going to meditate, mastery, that is mastery in this process of meditation, allows you then to experience the benefits of meditation. It may not happen immediately for you because the mastery in the meditation process may take time. That is, if you feel yourself being distracted, it's difficult to do it. That's the machinery that has to be refined to the point where you can enter into this meditative state without having to work at it, or without the meditative work that you're doing take up all the energy that you have.
Yeah. And sometimes when we are in fear,
Mm,
and I think that's the farthest level
yeah.
from a higher consciousness, and it can be hard to get out of because you are in this lower vibration. So it can be harder to just say, well, I know better than this. Let me just think spiritual thoughts. And it's not that easy. You may have to talk about your fear with someone. You may have to get it out, ex to express it, which means to push it out. You may have to do that to come to a place where then you can get to another state of consciousness. But it behooves you to do that, because to stay in it is just to wallow in the fear. So there's very little that that really requires us to stay in that fear. Unless you are being threatened currently, your life is being threatened. And most other times you can get yourself out of that state of fear. And depression is often how you're talking to yourself. So when you start feeling down, ask yourself, what was I just thinking?
Mhm.
What was I just saying to myself?
What was I afraid of? What fear did I have that I haven't addressed, that is having me feel that no matter what I do, it isn't going to work, or it's not going to be in favor of me? What is the thinking that goes on? But more importantly, I think, than the thinking is there fear contained in that? My experience has taught me that with people that are struggling with depression, myself included, there's two pieces to that. One is anger and the other one is fear. And the anger is that I can't get out of this. I can't resolve it. I can't move from point A to point B. And the fear is I'll be stuck here forever. And when you have that kind of circular thinking, what happens is then everything seems to fit that paradigm rather than another paradigm. You're really talking about a different paradigm. You're really saying no matter how bad things are, they don't have to be that bad. In reality, they're not that bad. It's bad in your mind, but it's not bad in reality. Not like you make it up to be. And so we make up a lot of the disasters that we live in, and then we live them out. And we can learn from that as disasters. But the question I would have is, do we need them? Could we replace them with something different? And of course we can.
And if you examine your thinking, as I say, if you're depressed and what was I just saying about myself to myself, you were probably criticizing yourself.
Mm.
And so could you, saying it's my own damn fault or something like that. So start, what if you could say some of these things like Ernest Holmes says about you, that you are an expression of the divine. Could you use an affirmation like that? To know yourself, you are more than that. You might deserve a little criticism. It might get you out of the slump you're in, but you are more than that.
Yeah.
And my experience is I feel a lot more confident. I feel a lot more capable when I say good things about me to myself.
Right. Another one that I like is I'm not the condition I'm living in. And I'm not a condition. I'm a person who's experiencing conditions. What would I like to do to change that? It's moving you from the condition to being the point of source, the point of cause.
Exactly. So no matter what age, no matter what our experiences, we can dare to dream big. We can have more joy, more love, more abundance, more friends, whatever it is you feel is lacking, you can have more.
Do we dare not dream big?
Right. Yeah.
This is
And
the
no,
world you're claiming the world that you're living in.
and it's not you doing it. You have to remember that it is the power of the universe that's doing it for you, but it is always doing it for you. So whatever your thoughts are about yourself and your circumstances, the universe is saying, right, you are, my beloved. Right, you are. Whatever you say, you're right. And I'll create those conditions for you.
Beautifully done. Beautifully said.
So we need to quit playing victim, quit saying, why me, God? Because it is you. And you can have more. You can have better. So we encourage you to dream big. And we love to hear about your results when you dream big.
And so it is.
And so it is. So I'm going to share the screen again to share with you and remind you that we welcome your donations to support our Center for Spiritual Living of the Palm Beaches. And this is a picture of our website where you get to by going to cslpalmbeaches.org. And when you do, we have a button that says ways to donate. We encourage you to do that. And we thank you for doing that because it keeps all of this going and even helps us figure out Zoom, which we really needed to do today with all of its improvements. But we'd like now for you to say this affirmation with us as you bless what you're sharing, because what you circulate comes back to you. And if you want more finances, then give more, because giving is how you increase your own. So let's say today, my investment today is made with the full realization that God is the source of my supply and returns it to me enriched and multiplied.
And so it is.
We have to end the recording.